The night smelled of champagne and danger. Elena Rossi wasn't supposed to be at the Gala of Shadows, a glittering charity event that masked the power games of Rome's elite. Her best friend, Chiara, had dragged her there, promising art patrons not criminals. But Elena could feel it the moment she stepped inside. This wasn't a night for art. It was a night for war, disguised in velvet and diamonds. She adjusted her black dress, trying to blend in. Her gaze caught on a man across the room, a tall figure in a tailored suit, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He stood apart from the crowd, commanding attention without saying a word. Adrian Moretti. Even Elena, who avoided the news, knew that name. The Italian underworld whispered it like a curse. The Mafia King. The man no one crossed. And he was staring straight at her. Her breath caught. She tore her gaze away, pretending to admire a painting. But her pulse betrayed her, quick and shallow. She didn't notice the argument starting near the bar until she heard the sound. Sharp, metallic, final. A gunshot. Panic erupted. Guests screamed. Glass shattered. Elena ducked behind a marble pillar, heart pounding. She dared to peek and froze. Adrian stood in the center of the chaos, gun still smoking in his hand. A man lay at his feet, blood staining the marble. The crowd parted around him like he was a god no one dared touch. Then his eyes found her again. For one impossible second, time stopped. He walked toward her slowly, like a predator closing in on its prey. His gaze was unreadable, dark, cold, but curious. When he reached her, he didn't raise the gun. He just tilted his head slightly, studying her trembling hands. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly, his voice low and smooth like smoke. I didn't see anything," she stammered, though they both knew it was a lie. His lips curved, not in a smile but something far more dangerous. "You saw everything, Bella Mia?" Her breath hitched as he leaned closer, his cologne, spice and sin, filling her lungs. "I should kill you for that," he whispered, eyes flicking down to her lips. "But for some reason, I can't." Her pulse fluttered wildly. Every instinct screamed to run, but she couldn't move. He brushed a strand of hair from her face, voice dropping to a murmur that sent chills down her spine. "Tell me you don't feel this," he whispered. And she forgot how to breathe. Elena woke to the sound of rain and the scent of expensive leather. Her head throbbed. The last thing she remembered was the gunshot, Adrian's eyes, and darkness swallowing her whole. Now she was lying on a silk bed in a room too elegant to belong to anyone normal. Heavy curtains blocked the morning light. Every piece of furniture screamed wealth and control, black marble, gold trim, and a single portrait of a man who looked just like him. The door opened. Adrian Moretti walked in, no suit jacket this time, just black slacks, a white shirt rolled up to his elbows, and that same dangerous calm that made her heart skip a beat. "You're awake," he said. His tone wasn't relief, it was assessment, like he was studying a puzzle he hadn't solved yet. Elena scrambled up, clutching the blanket. "Where am I?" "My home," he replied simply. "Villa Moretti." Panic spiked. "You kidnapped me." Adrian's lips twitched, a shadow of amusement. "I prefer the word protected. You saw something you shouldn't have. The men I deal with won't rest until you disappear." Her chest tightened. "So you're keeping me prisoner?" He stepped closer, slow and deliberate. "Alive, Elena. There's a difference." Her name sounded sinful in his accent. She wanted to scream, to demand her freedom, but her voice caught when he reached out and lifted her chin with one finger. "I should have killed you that night," he murmured, gaze locked on hers. "It would have been cleaner. Easier." "Then why didn't you?" she whispered. Something flickered in his eyes, something raw, almost human. "Because you looked at me like I was still a man," he said softly. "Not a monster." Her breath hitched. He released her, stepping back before the air between them could ignite. "You'll stay here until I decide it's safe. You'll be treated well. But don't mistake this for freedom." "I don't belong here," she said, voice trembling. "No," he agreed. "You belong nowhere but where I put you." Her pulse raced, equal parts fear and something she refused to name. As he turned to leave, she found herself whispering, "And what happens when it's safe?" He paused in the doorway, glancing over his shoulder. "Then you'll tell me whether you still feel it." And before she could ask what it was, the door clicked shut behind him. Her heart didn't stop racing for a long time. The villa was a palace, cold, beautiful, and completely wrong for her. Every hallway gleamed with polished marble and gold fixtures. Fresh roses bloomed in crystal vases. It was the kind of beauty that made you forget how easily it could cut you. For the first 2 days, Elena barely left her room. The guards outside her door were polite but firm, shadows in suits who answered only to their king. On the third morning she found the courage to step out. The villa was quiet except for the soft hum of distant conversation and the rhythmic tap of rain against the windows. She wandered past endless corridors until she reached a grand piano in the main hall. She hesitated, fingers hovering over the keys. Then, unable to resist, she played. A soft melody filled the room, lonely, uncertain, but alive. When she finished, she heard slow clapping behind her. Adrian stood at the edge of the room, watching her. "Beautiful," he said. "I didn't know you played." Elena turned sharply. "You don't know anything about me." He smiled faintly, stepping closer. "That's what I'm trying to fix." "I don't want to be your project," she snapped. "I just want to go home." He stopped inches away, close enough for her to smell that same intoxicating mix of smoke and spice. "Your home isn't safe. The man I killed had friends. Powerful ones. If they knew you were alive, they'd use you to get to me." "Maybe that's exactly what I want," she said quietly. "To see you lose." His gaze darkened. "You think this is a game, Elena?" "I think you enjoy owning people," she whispered. "Even when you pretend it's protection." He moved so fast she didn't see it coming, his hand gripping the piano's edge beside her, trapping her between him and the instrument. "You're right," he murmured, voice low, dangerous. "I do like control. But not because I want to hurt you." "Then why?" He leaned in, his breath warm against her ear. "Because every time I'm near you, I feel like I'm losing mine." Her heartbeat stumbled. For a long, breathless moment, neither of them moved. The air between them pulsed with something wild and forbidden. Then Adrian stepped back, jaw tight. "Dinner. 8 o'clock. Don't make me send someone to fetch you." As he walked away, Elena pressed a trembling hand to her chest. The melody she'd played still lingered in the air, soft, haunting, and unfinished. The dining room was too quiet. A long mahogany table stretched between them, set for two, its surface glowing beneath a chandelier that looked like it could light an entire city. The food was untouched, steak, wine, and silverware that gleamed sharper than knives. Elena sat straight, her hands folded in her lap, refusing to look impressed. She'd spent all afternoon wondering if she should even come. But something about defying him so openly terrified her more than showing up. Adrian broke the silence first. "You look better?" "I look like a hostage who found your wardrobe," she replied, glancing at the silk dress laid out for her earlier. His mouth curved slightly. "If I wanted you in chains, Bella Mia, you'd be wearing them." She flinched. "You think that's supposed to make me feel safe?" "I think you mistake safety for freedom." She gripped her glass, refusing to show how his calm voice rattled her. "You talk like you own me." Adrian leaned back in his chair, eyes locked on her. "I saved you. In my world, that means I do own you, until I decide otherwise." Her pulse jumped, but she met his gaze. "And what if I don't accept that?" "Then you'll learn what happens to people who refuse me." He said it softly, not as a threat, but as a fact. It sent a shiver through her anyway. They ate in silence for a while, the tension thick enough to taste. She found herself studying him, wondering how a man could look both elegant and dangerous at once. Finally she said, "Do you ever regret it? Killing him?" Adrian's fork paused midair. For a heartbeat, something flickered behind his eyes. Pain, maybe? Then it was gone. "He made a choice," he said. "So did I." "And me?" she asked quietly. "What choice did I make?" He looked at her for a long moment before answering. "You made the mistake of being in the wrong place, and the mistake of making me feel something I shouldn't." Her breath caught. Adrian stood, walking to her side of the table. He leaned down until their faces were inches apart. "You can hate me all you want, Elena. But the next time your heart beats this fast, don't pretend it's fear." Her voice barely worked. "Then what is it?" His lips brushed her ear as he whispered, "It's what happens when the devil falls for his prisoner." When he left the room, Elena sat frozen, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it echo in the silence. Night fell over the villa like a secret. Elena couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw him. His stare, his voice, the way the word feel had curled from his lips like a challenge. She stepped out onto the balcony, needing air. The rain had stopped, leaving the sky heavy with clouds and the scent of wet roses from the garden below. She wrapped her arms around herself, wishing the pounding in her chest would slow. Behind her, the glass door slid open. "I didn't mean to startle you," Adrian said quietly. Elena turned. He stood in the doorway, still dressed from dinner, the first few buttons of his shirt undone. The sight made her breath hitch. "I couldn't sleep either," he added, stepping closer. She looked away. Guilt keeping you up? His low chuckle vibrated through the night air. You think I feel guilt? I think you feel more than you want to admit, she murmured. He stopped inches behind her. The warmth of his presence wrapped around her like invisible fire. And what about you, Bellamia? What are you afraid to admit? Her throat went dry. That I'm not afraid of you anymore. He moved closer, his hand resting lightly on the balcony rail beside hers. Then what are you afraid of? That you'll make me forget who I am, she whispered. He turned her gently, forcing her to meet his gaze. For a moment, the world shrank to the sound of their breathing. You shouldn't be here, she said, voice trembling. I told myself the same thing, he replied. The distance between them disappeared. His fingers brushed her cheek, tracing the outline of her jaw, and when his thumb grazed her lips, something inside her shattered. The kiss wasn't gentle. It was desperate, hungry, like two people fighting the inevitable. She should have pushed him away, should have screamed, but her hands found his shoulders instead, clutching him like she'd drown if she let go. When he finally pulled back, both of them were breathing hard. This can't happen, she whispered. I know, he said. His voice was rough, torn between restraint and need. But tell me, Elena, you didn't feel nothing, did you? She couldn't speak. She didn't have to. The look in her eyes gave him his answer. He stepped back slowly as if distance could undo what had just burned between them. Get some sleep, he said quietly, disappearing into the dark. But Elena didn't sleep. She stood there until sunrise, wondering how one kiss could ruin everything she thought she knew about right and wrong. The morning light felt heavier than it should have. Elena sat by the window, clutching a mug of coffee she hadn't touched. The villa was quiet, too quiet. Every sound seemed sharper after what had happened the night before. Every heartbeat felt louder. She still felt his lips. When the door opened, she half expected it to be Adrian. Instead, it was an older woman in a maid's uniform, her eyes kind but cautious. Signorina Rossi, she said softly, Mr. Moretti asked that you stay inside today. Elena frowned. Why? The woman hesitated. There were men outside the gates this morning. Not his. A chill ran down her spine. Are they looking for me? The woman didn't answer, she didn't need to. When she left, Elena rose and paced the room, her thoughts a blur of panic and confusion. If Adrian hadn't killed her that night, maybe others wanted to. Maybe he'd been telling the truth all along. Still, she couldn't stop thinking about the way he'd kissed her, the way he'd looked at her afterward, like he was fighting himself. Later, she found him in his study, standing by the window with a phone in his hand. His voice was low, sharp, commanding. The language was Italian, but the tone was universal. Control, power, danger. When he hung up, she said, You're keeping things from me. He turned, unbothered. I'm keeping you alive. I have a right to know what's happening. You have the right to stay breathing, Elena. That's all. The cold finality in his voice made her flinch. But instead of backing down, she stepped closer. You think you can lock me away and I'll just obey? I'm not your soldier. I'm not your possession. Adrian's jaw tightened. You're something much worse, he said quietly. You're my weakness. She froze. He ran a hand through his hair, the mask of control cracking for just a second. The men outside aren't after you, they're after me. You're a liability I can't afford, but I can't let go of either. Then let me go, she whispered. Before I destroy you too. He shook his head slowly. It's too late for that. Their eyes locked, his filled with conflict, hers with fear that wasn't entirely fear anymore. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. Inside, the storm was just beginning. The storm came without warning. By midnight, thunder shook the villa's walls. Rain battered the windows like fists. And somewhere in the chaos, Elena heard the echo of gunfire. She ran to the door, heart pounding. The hallway was empty, but she could hear shouting in Italian, hurried footsteps, the sound of men loading weapons. Fear crawled up her spine. The lock on her door clicked from the outside. Trapped again. Elena, a voice called through the storm. It was Adrian's second in command, Marco. Stay inside. Don't open the door for anyone. She pressed her ear against the wood. What's happening? They found us, he shouted back. Adrian's handling it, just stay down. Her hands trembled. She backed away from the door as the sound of bullets tore through the air, closer this time. She ducked behind the bed, clutching the edge of the blanket like it could protect her. Minutes or hours passed. Then silence. The kind of silence that comes after destruction. When the door finally burst open, she screamed, until she saw him. Adrian. His white shirt was torn, blood on his sleeve, eyes burning with fury and something else, fear. "Are you hurt?" he demanded, scanning her quickly. She shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I heard." He didn't let her finish. He pulled her against him, one hand cradling the back of her head. His heartbeat was wild against her ear. "You're safe now," he said roughly. "I won't let anyone touch you." Her fingers clutched his shirt. "You're bleeding." "It's not mine," he said, but his voice wavered slightly. When he pulled back, their faces were inches apart. Rain streaked down his hair, his jaw tight with exhaustion. He looked like a man carved from chaos, unbreakable until she touched him. "You should have run," he murmured. "You still could." "I didn't want to," she said, surprising herself. Adrian stared at her, jaw flexing, as if the truth in her words hurt more than any bullet. "You're going to destroy me, Elena? Maybe I already have." Lightning flashed through the window, illuminating their faces. His hand came up to her cheek, thumb brushing a tear away. "Tell me," he whispered, voice barely audible over the rain. "After everything, after what you've seen, do you still feel it?" She swallowed hard, her breath shaking. "Yes," she whispered. "And I hate that I do." His lips ghosted over hers, a promise and a curse all at once. "Then you're as doomed as I am," he said and kissed her. Outside, thunder roared. Inside, two hearts finally stopped pretending. By morning, the storm had passed, but the world it left behind was broken. Smoke still hung over the courtyard. Shattered glass glittered like frost across the marble floors. 3 of Adrian's men were dead. The enemy had retreated, but not without leaving a message: "This isn't over." Elena stood at the window watching the cleanup below. She'd never seen so much blood. And yet, what terrified her more wasn't the violence. It was how calm Adrian looked in the middle of it. He was standing by the fountain, giving orders, his voice like iron. Every man who looked at him did so with the same expression: respect mixed with fear. He ruled this world with precision. But the moment his gaze lifted to meet hers across the distance, just for a heartbeat, she saw something else: doubt. When he came inside, he looked tired, though he'd never admit it. His shirt was clean again, but his hands trembled slightly as he poured a drink. "You should pack a bag," he said finally. "You're leaving tonight." Her chest tightened. "You're sending me away?" He didn't meet her eyes. "The attack was meant for me, but they'll come after you next. I can't protect you here." She crossed the room, anger sparking through her fear. "You don't get to decide that. You said I was safe with you." "I said I'd keep you alive," he cut in sharply. "And the only way to do that is to send you somewhere they'll never find you." "And what about you?" she whispered. "They'll come back for you." He gave a humorless smile. "Let them. I was born for this." She shook her head, tears filling her eyes. "Don't pretend you don't care, Adrian. Not after." "Don't?" His voice broke just enough to betray him. "Don't make me choose between my empire and you." "You already have," she said quietly. He closed his eyes, jaw clenching. Then he stepped closer, cupping her face in both hands. His touch was desperate now, almost pleading. "If I keep you, they'll kill you," he whispered. "If I let you go, they'll kill me." Her tears slipped over his fingers. "Then maybe we were never meant to survive this." Adrian leaned his forehead against hers, breath uneven. "You make me weak, Bella Mia. Maybe you were never strong for the right reasons," she whispered. He kissed her once, soft, aching, final. Then he turned and walked away before she could stop him. That night the car came for her. And as the villa lights disappeared behind her, Elena realized she wasn't sure who she was anymore: the girl who'd run from the Mafia King, or the woman who'd fallen for him. The villa felt emptier than ever before. For the first time in years, Adrian couldn't sleep. He'd built his empire on control, on silence, on the promise that he'd never let anyone get close enough to destroy him. But now the silence burned. He poured himself another drink, ignoring the blood still drying on his knuckles. The war hadn't ended with Elena's departure. It had only shifted. His enemies had seen what she did to him. They'd seen his weakness. And in his world, weakness was a death sentence. "Boss," Marco said from the doorway. "We got word from the docks. The shipment was ambushed." Adrian didn't flinch. "How bad?" "Bad. They knew the route. Someone's feeding them information." He exhaled slowly, the glass trembling in his hand. "Find out who. I want every name, every number." Marco hesitated. "And the girl?" Adrian's jaw tightened. "She's gone." "Gone? Or hidden?" He didn't answer. Couldn't. Because every night since he'd sent her away, he saw her in his dreams, the way her voice cracked when she said his name, the warmth of her hands trembling against his chest, the look in her eyes when she realized he wasn't a monster. Not entirely. Boss, Marco said again more carefully, you can't fight this war distracted. She's not your responsibility anymore. Adrian's voice was low, dangerous. She's the only thing that keeps me from becoming what they say I am. Before Marco could reply, the phone on the desk rang. Adrian snatched it up. Moretti. Pause. Then a voice, cold, taunting, familiar. Adrian, you've been difficult to reach, the caller drawled. I thought maybe you'd appreciate some motivation. Adrian's pulse slowed. Who is this? You killed my brother, the man said. So I took something of yours. The glass slipped from Adrian's hand, shattering on the floor. Where is she? The man chuckled. Alive. For now. But that depends on how fast you come find her. The line went dead. Adrian stood frozen, the storm inside him roaring louder than any thunder outside. For the first time there was no strategy, no calculation, only raw, unfiltered rage. He turned to Marco, eyes burning with purpose. Get the car, he said. We end this tonight. The night smelled of gasoline and vengeance. Adrian's convoy tore through the city's back streets, engines growling like beasts. Every turn brought him closer. To her, to the man who thought he could take what belonged to the king. When the warehouse came into view, Marco spoke quietly from the seat beside him. There'll be 20 men inside. Then there'll be 20 bodies when I'm done, Adrian said. Inside, the air reeked of oil and blood. The moment he stepped through the door, bullets erupted. His men moved like shadows, efficient, ruthless. But Adrian didn't stop to count. He was already moving toward the back, toward the faint sound of her voice. He found her bound to a chair, a bruise blooming along her jaw. The sight of it snapped the last thread of restraint inside him. Her captor turned too late. Adrian's gun was already raised. One shot. One fall. Silence. Then he was kneeling before her, hands trembling as he cut the ropes. Adrian, she whispered, tears filling her eyes. You're safe now, he said, voice breaking. I've got you. She reached for his face, tracing the smear of blood on his cheek. You came for me. I told myself I wouldn't, he murmured, but I can't breathe without you anymore. He pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. For a long, shattering moment, neither spoke. The world outside burned, but inside that broken warehouse, it was just them, two souls finally done running. When they pulled apart, she looked at him with a softness that hurt. You'll never be free of this world, will you? He shook his head. No. But I can make room in it, for you. She smiled faintly through her tears. That sounds like forever. He cupped her face, his thumb brushing her lip, his eyes dark and certain. Then forever starts now. Their lips met. No hunger this time, no war, just the quiet surrender of two people who'd fought too hard to deny what they felt. When they finally stepped out into the rain, dawn was breaking over the city. For once, Adrian Moretti didn't feel like the Mafia King. He felt human. And when Elena looked up at him, smiling despite everything, he whispered the words that had started it all, softly, reverently, like a vow. Tell me you don't feel this. She smiled. I can't. And that was, tell me you don't feel this, the story of a Mafia King who ruled the world, until love brought him to his knees. Adrian and Elena's story reminds us that even in the darkest worlds, love can be the most dangerous weapon of all. If you felt this story, if your heart raced, broke, or healed with them, don't leave without showing some love back. Like this video if you believe love can change even the cruelest hearts. Comment your favorite moment or line. I read every single one. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next forbidden love story.